Hey, welcome back to the Eric Mueller Show, everyone. I am your host, Eric Mueller. I'm eager to introduce you to our interview guest for this chapter of the show. This time around, we have the pleasure of diving into the mindset of an active chief executive officer who oversees a company that has served its community for more than 145 years. Headquartered in Winona, Minnesota, Merchants Bank is responsible for more than $2.6 billion in assets and was the fifth largest banking organization headquartered in Minnesota as of year end in 2020. Our guest, Greg Evans, joined Merchants in 1989 and served 18 years in Winona as the bank's senior vice president and director of marketing. From 2007 through the end of 2013, Evans served as one of the company's 4 regional presidents, with leadership responsibility for markets of Cannon Falls, Red Wing, and Hampton. He was named President and Chief Executive Officer for Merchants Financial Group Incorporated and Merchants Bank North America in February of 2017. Listen to Greg speak on the importance of growing your organization from within, what it takes to be the leader of the team as a CEO, and how fostering your competitive spirit will help push you in the direction towards your full potential in life. You can always access the show at ericrmueller.com/Eric Mueller Show. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, follow on Spotify, and if you like the show, leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Without further ado, let's go ahead to the interview. So welcome to the Eric Mueller Show, Greg Evans, CEO and President of Merchants Bank. Say hello to the audience here, Greg.
Hi, Eric. Thanks very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Absolutely. I'm enthused to interview you. I'm really excited for this. And, a fellow Winonan, it's really, really cool to have you on. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself, Greg.
Sure, Eric. So as you mentioned, I'm a Winona native, just like you are. I grew up in Winona, went to school at Winona Senior High School, and had 2 special people as classmates, your mom and dad. Jeff and Chris, great people, and played basketball with Jeff. And it's fun to have your mom now as a coworker. We've kind of rekindled a friendship that kind of lapsed over a period of time. But left Winona, went to college in Valparaiso, Indiana. Navigated my way to Northwest Indiana, and primarily for the reason of playing some college baseball there. And then it didn't take too long for me to figure out that I wasn't probably good enough to play at that level. So converted my baseball playing dedication to fraternity stuff and going to school and getting a couple of degrees. My degrees are actually in political science and journalism. I grew up literally in a newsroom. My father was a print journalist for about the first 2/3 of his career. So I grew up running around in the newsroom at the Winona Daily News and learned to write. And that's when I really embraced my passion for communication, writing, reading, learning. And my first job out of college was as an assistant sports editor for a newspaper in Mason City, Iowa. Banking, community banking, wasn't anything I knew anything about. Wasn't anything that I ever thought about getting involved in terms of a career. And then the president of Merchants Bank at the time in 1989 was aware of me and my communication background. And Merchants was creating an internal marketing and communication position for the first time. Company was just poised to pursue some geographic expansion and merger and acquisition activity, and had identified the need for somebody to lead marketing, communications, brand development. And the company took a big leap of faith in bringing me on board. I moved back to Winona. I didn't think I'd be back in Winona for all that long. And here we are 31 years later, and back in Winona, and it's home, and it's a wonderful place to have made a career and add to my resume in terms of leadership influence. And just really thankful for Merchants Bank, seeing something in me that I probably didn't even see in myself at the time, and giving me an opportunity. And then just over a period of 30 plus years, investing in me, giving me the opportunity to learn the business, giving me growth and development opportunities, and allowing me to take on new roles and responsibilities over the course of time, some which I was ready for, some which I probably wasn't. And then moved and transferred out of Winona for a 7-year stint with Merchants. We bought a family-owned bank that took us into new markets, Cannon Falls and Red Wing, just up the river from our headquarters community of Winona. And because culture transfer and leadership and community engagement and our approach to community banking, we feel, takes a special sense of pride and attention. I was given the opportunity to transfer from my marketing leadership role to become one of our regional presidents and transfer the Merchants culture into those new communities. So really had an opportunity to accelerate my understanding of the business from 2007 to 2013 in Cannon Falls. And then in 2014 was given the opportunity to come back to Winona, come back home. And I served the first 3 years back here as the chief banking officer and responsibility for all of our markets and oversight of the flagship market in Winona. And then when my predecessor, Rod Nelson, wonderful mentor and leader, retired as the president and CEO in 2017, I was given that opportunity to provide executive leadership for the franchise as a whole.
Thank you for sharing that career path with us, Greg. I think that really helps me lead into what I want to ask you next is you mentioned the culture within your organization. So the Merchants Bank culture. I know I've heard a little bit about it from my mom. I've seen some of the things she's been involved in. I've read about, the mission statement and whatnot online, but share with us about that company culture. Like what culture exists in your organization and how did you establish that or how did you help facilitate that going forward?
I think the culture that we enjoy at Merchants has been evolving, but well grounded in fundamental core values that were present when I joined in 1989, and maybe not, as sophisticated or well defined at the time. It was a really small community bank of about 200 million in assets. We just had 2 locations here in Winona. We hadn't yet started to expand and acquire other banks. But I think what I would say is that the people of the bank that I joined, that I had the privilege to work with in those early years they were selfless, caring people. They really cared about the Winona community. They really cared about our customers. And, I learned very early that, in our approach to community banking, we really benefit when our communities and our customers do well. And a byproduct of that, if our customers are successful, if our communities are thriving, if there's like economic vitality as a community bank and an important leader in the community and a driver of economic activity, we're going to benefit in the form of rewarding performance. So I think fundamentally from my very first day at Merchants, it was basically kind of golden rule principles, treat people the way you want to be treated yourself. And over the years, as our culture has evolved, it still comes back to, understanding that our business is based on trust. And to earn trust, you have to earn a reputation for integrity and ethical standards and really kind of a philosophy of servitude. And that's really what Merchants Bank has been known for, for the great run that I've had with the company over 31 years. More recently, we've done some really keen, intensely focused work on our brand, kind of redefining our mission statement and really honing in on establishing clarity for all stakeholders about why we exist. And that why we exist really is about, helping our customers and our communities realize their hopes and dreams. And we're engaged in that pursuit because we're community members too. And so it comes back to that principle. When our customers and our communities are thriving, we're going to benefit as a result as an organization.
That hits right on. That matches exactly what I've heard from my mom, and I know she's been involved with some leadership things, and I think that's really impressive how you facilitate that culture from within and really build that, get people to stay motivated to remain with the company, but then also to become passionate about why they're doing what they're doing. So building off of that question, how have you built that successful customer base? What strategies have you utilized? You coming from a marketing background, that's how you got your start with the company. I applaud you for it. It's inspiring to see how you've worked over those last that decade plus of time to get to where you are. But share with me a little bit about those marketing tactics, how you've remained successful in that way.
Right. It's a challenge. We deliver a commodity. There isn't any bank or credit union or financial services company that doesn't deliver basically the same fundamental products that we deliver to our customers. And so it's a very competitive landscape. And I think what we recognize as the differentiation is, first and foremost, a high degree of personalized service. And probably up until the last 10 years, that was probably good enough. But there's so much disruption in our industry today, and technology is a disruptor. And I think that high touch, personalized service approach is still relevant, and I think people still want that. But they also have the right to expect that the convenience and utility of digital solutions have to be present. And so we're trying to deliver that high touch, personalized approach in a number of different ways today. But I think it's about really trying to position our people in the role of trusted advisors. So again, everybody can get the same type of checking account or mortgage loan or commercial loan from any number of providers in the service footprint that we currently serve. But having that banker who really truly is vested in the customer's best interest and delivering service in a way that really puts the customer first, and with some authenticity about how much we care about the financial future of those clients, that's really the secret sauce. And again, it requires a very dedicated and committed workforce to try to achieve a level of exceptional customer experience. That's the standard that we aspire to deliver. We know we fall short, but trying to motivate and inspire all of our people to take a value-added approach and really represent that care and concern for our clients is, we think, at the end of the day, what makes us different.
Most definitely. And as you lead the company as the CEO, what advice would you give to someone who wants to pursue a role such as that, who wants to lead an organization? What advice would you give them to make sure that they are doing the things for the right reason and are showing, they're walking the talk, so to speak?
Sure. I think the biggest motivation is, and the sense of reward comes in seeing some of those outcomes. And, last year we originated more than 4,000 mortgage loans, and, that's a lot of transactions, but it's also a lot of families that we helped either, buy a new home, perhaps get financed into their first home, maybe refinance an existing loan at a lower rate. And, the outcome of that is, maybe more disposable income, so lots of different things that, those outcomes are very rewarding. Community banking is a tremendously rewarding profession, because the work that we do and, the help that we provide and the value added service, like I said, it really does contribute to, customers realizing hopes and dreams and putting themselves in a better financial place. And, having people who gain a true sense of reward in helping that happen. It's a pretty special feeling when you feel like, you've really made a difference in somebody's life.
And like you said, people have other options for banking. The Merchants Bank is not the only bank in Winona, not the only bank in the region. So to be able to stand out and show that you're going to provide more value or you're going to be able to build a better relationship, I think really hits home with anybody who wants to lead a business, large or small. If you're leading a local business, you need to, keep your customers first in your mind as far as why you're doing that. And by building those relationships, you can really make a difference. And that's, from my point of view, in learning throughout pharmacy school, when we hit on what is leadership, they defined it. My dean of student affairs defined it as just building relationships with other people. That's what he believed leadership was. What do you define leadership as, Greg? Do you agree with him, or do you have a different take on it?
Well, I think, as a leader, I've come to recognize that, I kind of prefer the, I guess the coaching aspect of leadership and really helping somebody, member of my team, realize their full potential. We really take a servant leadership approach at Merchants. And, I was inspired by my first read of the book, The Servant by James Hunter. It's really telling tale about how just, taking a unique look at leadership, not as a position of authority or command or control, but really as a function of servitude and helping others. I think that's really, kind of my leadership style. I think it starts with an authentic sense of caring about all of the people in our organization, all of our stakeholders, and then, really focusing on helping our people realize, their full potential, being available as a coach, a mentor, as a counselor, but also really challenging people to find their own way. And so we've actually instituted a leadership development program at Merchants. And we instituted about 4 years ago just because we wanted to be more intentional about the leadership philosophy that we hope to deploy throughout the entire organization. So servant leadership and servitude and service above self has really been, kind of cemented as part of our leadership mantra and really embedded in the core values of the culture of the company.
Yeah, and audience members, listen up. So if you've been following the show, if you've listened to the first interview of Bob Kierlin, you'll hear Greg saying a lot of things that line up with what he said. So one of Bob's main points was leadership is challenge, not control. One of his big principles that he instilled in Fastenal's organization was to bring out the best potential in other people. So, you see as we talk to people that are in these roles, just keep in mind all the commonalities. So if you want to become a better leader, you have to serve. And I know that aligns with, I'm a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk, and he has that mindset of himself as well. You as the CEO, you serve your team. They don't serve you. So I think keeping that, mindset also helps suppress your ego. But I appreciate those words, Greg. I think that lines up with what leadership is, in my opinion. And you
Absolutely.
mentioned that, yeah, for real. And you mentioned that book, The Servant. So it's from leadership. You're serving. What other finance or leadership books have inspired you the most, or do you have a list of to read by Greg or anything?
I read for relaxation and leisure. So again, I'm well read at work. I'm reading a lot of trade publications. I really am. I'm a big believer in lifelong learning. I wasn't, cut out or set out to be the CEO of a banking organization. There's nothing in my genetic history or my DNA that would have positioned me for that. I think, what my parents, instilled in me from an early age was, first and foremost, care about other people. And then really instilled in me, an understanding that learning and education, it never stops. So, for every one of my 31 years at Merchants, I've been given just dozens of opportunity for continuing education. I'm a big reader at work, trade and business publications, keeping up on digital disruption, technology, and its impact on our industry. when I'm home at night and get a break, I'm reading primarily for leisure, and I like to go to bed with a good thriller or piece of fiction. But I also am a studier of history. So, a lot of what I read about leadership is in the form of biographies or autobiographies. I just finished a really long read on George Washington. It was fascinating. A long time ago, obviously, but just to get some context of, the challenges that were faced in the very early years of our country, and the endurance test that, as really the father of the United States of America, he was faced to encounter. It was a fascinating read. There's also a lot of things in the read that are very telling about, some of the social, economic, and social justice, matters that, we're still dealing with in this country today. So I think, reading of history is very telling. It can be very telling and enlightening about leadership. But there's wonderful context in history that is relevant to, some of the challenging times that we face today in our country.
Yeah, and history not known is bound to repeat itself, right? So if we don't learn our mistakes from the past, we might meet that unfortunate demise as well. So thank you for sharing that. I mean, that sounds like an interesting read. I know that I like to relax at night too. I mean, you want to stay focused throughout the day as much as possible, and doing some things on the side like this podcast have consumed some of my time, but I enjoy it a lot. But I like reading for leisure as well. Some books that I'm reading right now. I finished the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I have, and I haven't read it.
It's not super long. It took me probably too long to read it, but it's just over 200 pages. But Robert Kiyosaki lays out some principles there, and from a finance point of view, I don't come from a finance background, but it's always been an interest of mine. So it's inspiring to hear you say, at least, that, in your opinion, you didn't feel like you were maybe be fit to be a CEO later, but here you are. So I think that's really cool to hear. So walk us through a little bit too, kind of going back to your career path. So you had this opportunity in 2007 to basically become, a regional leader in the Cannon Falls area. And then 7 years later, you get this opportunity to join the C-suite and Merchants Come Back Home. At what point did you know that you wanted to be a CEO? Was it somewhere along that way, or even when you started in marketing, did you know that you wanted to eventually have a trajectory vertically? Or
Yeah, I don't know that I was ever motivated or inspired, by a title, Eric. I mean, candidly, I was motivated and driven by the opportunity to, have influence. I feel really strongly about what we do. More importantly, I feel very passionate about how we do it. I think it makes a difference in our communities, and I think it again has real impact on the lives of our customers. And ultimately, all of that works together to drive economic vitality in a region that is it's a really special place. You grew up in Winona. Winona's our hometown. There is just wonderful spirit of entrepreneurialism and independence in Winona, and such a rich history of business startups and long-standing successful family-owned businesses. And then as we've broadened our geographic reach, we've got wonderful diversification in the makeup of our markets. We serve agribusiness in a number of small communities, in this region. We're in Rochester, where, pretty much everything is driven by healthcare and the service industry in support of healthcare. And then we've got a presence in the southern Twin Cities, which really affords us an opportunity to be a niche commercial bank for, relatively small businesses in the scheme of the Twin Cities economic region, in terms of, again, that difference of, being a trusted advisor and kind of carving out a niche focus in that Twin Cities suburban area. So that diversification is something that I've really enjoyed, you know, getting to know different industries, different market characteristics, what makes different communities tick. So back to your question about, C-suite, it was never a goal or an objective or a motivation of mine to, be the leader or the executive leader for this company. It was all about a really passionate belief in the importance of what we do, how we do it, and wanting to be in a position to influence that for the company as a whole. And so for the first 17 years, as we were growing, expanding, a big part of my responsibility was helping bring our brand alive and making that brand relevant, not just in Winona, where we've been since 1875, but making that brand relevant based on kind of that trusted advisor approach that we're delivering to all of the markets we serve. And then thinking I was ready in 2007 to take that next step. And because of what I had learned about the business and because of the responsibility that I had in, kind of influencing the brand and its development, its awareness, I thought I was ready, to transfer that in a leadership role in the business. I would tell you that I probably wasn't as ready for that opportunity as I thought I was. But those first few years in Cannon Falls were some of the most challenging but most rewarding years of my life. If you remember, we bought that bank in the fall of 2007. And shortly after we bought the bank is when the Great Recession occurred. And so, we were in community banking, and I was providing leadership for some markets, for our community bank that were under stress. And in banking, some of that, requires some hard work, you show up with dignity, you show up, with an approach that, we're here to serve and we're here to work with our customers and we're here to get through these hard times together. And I learned an awful lot, in those 7 years in Cannon Falls. And then again, the company once again, took a leap of faith and gave me the opportunity to come back here in a broader leadership role. And Rod Nelson, who was my predecessor as the CEO, was a tremendous community banker. He saw this profession the exact same way that I do, and really the way our entire executive management team does. And again, the board of directors in 2017, when Rod retired, had some outstanding candidates from which to choose to lead the company. And I've got some wonderfully talented coworkers that are just as capable as I am. And again, the board put its leap of faith in giving me that opportunity, and very grateful. And again, we have a tremendous leadership team, and we have complementary strengths and good teams. Everybody on good teams knows their roles. We respect everybody's strengths. We respect the fact that we all have weaknesses. We collaborate and we work together to do important and great work.
Thank you for sharing that. And jumping off that, you mentioned hard work. So hard work in an executive role, I'm sure there's a lot of that. From the top down, everybody's working hard. But I'm curious, if you could put a number on it, how many hours a day would you say you work on average as CEO and president of Merchants?
So, what I would say, Eric, is, I have a very strong work ethic. I learned it from my parents. And, my approach to leadership is that, I have the obligation to set the example, and I have to make sure that, I'm representing the fact that, there isn't anything about hard work that, I'm not willing to make a commitment to. I would say that, from a practical standpoint, it's kind of like being on the job 24/7. in this industry, we're really I'm representing the face of the bank in the community. Even when I'm out, socially or enjoying some of my hobbies, there's a connection to Merchants Bank with every one of my interactions. Probably one of my weaknesses is I take everything probably too personally to a fault. So I'm not a great sleeper. I can get to sleep after a good read, but if I wake up in the middle of the night, my mind is just kind of spinning and spinning and spinning. I'm thinking about, the challenges of the next day, or I'm making a mental note of something that I've got to remember to do, or I have an innovative thought that I need to write down. So, it's never really totally shut off for me. It's definitely a fault of mine. Typical work day for me is I'm a morning guy, typically up 4:30 every morning. I try to get a light workout in. I'm too old to work out hard anymore, and my body's telling me that I'm too old to work out hard. But I try to get in a light jog or a walk before work. Typically in the office between 7 or 7:30, and my work day is, again, I have a lot of flexibility, and I've got the flexibility to leave on a Wednesday afternoon if I want to play around to golf. But there's a lot of evenings I'm working late, typically working at least a couple of hours, on the weekend. And I'd say typical regular work week for me is probably 55 to 60 hours.
Okay. Yeah, I think that probably falls in line with some other CEOs and other executives and presidents. At least I would say they probably would share that, you're on the job 24/7 type mindset. Not that you're clocked in per se, but you're carrying with you that organization and that integrity that you have to carry with you on the golf course, when you're out to dinner, if you're at a sporting event. And you said something that made me curious. How do you generate new ideas? Do you have any strategies? Like, you say you wake up, maybe you had an idea, but when you're sitting down to intentionally think of one, how do you do that?
I'm really well read. So again, I don't know. I'm not brilliant in terms of innovation. I'm probably at times not bold enough in terms of, thinking innovatively. But I'm an intense reader. I'm an intense reader of our industry. I'm an intense reader of socioeconomic environment. I'm an intense reader of business and markets. And, so I think, the culmination of all that, and I'm a quick reader. So I can, I'm not a speed reader. I can't, read the Wall Street Journal cover to cover in 10 minutes and have a good sense of everything that, maybe I scanned, but I'm pretty quick to hone in on things of interest or things of relevance to community banking or to, governance things and culture things that we need to be mindful of, because, the environment that we're doing business in today is vastly different than the environment we were in doing business in even 2 years ago. And how different is it going to be 2 years from now? So I would not suggest that, I'm great at, thinking that far ahead, but I'm very in tune with where's momentum coming from, or where is momentum maybe taking us. And I have an ability to, to think critically about something I've read and how that might impact or be relevant to a strategic pursuit that we need to have some sense of awareness around.
And that echoes your point earlier of maintaining, that mindset of continually developing yourself, and you never stop learning. In being a well-read individual, is there a common myth about finance or banking that you want to debunk here on the show that you think other people have about the industry? I'm curious as to what your answer might be.
Well, I think in general, banking gets a bad rap, and I think there's a perception about banking that is stuffy and arrogant and greedy, and I think there probably is some of that in banking. Probably more, more routine in kind of the investment banking world. Community banking is something very different, and it isn't any of those things. It really is selfless. And yeah, we have the obligation and responsibility to protect our depositors' savings and be stewards of those deposits, when we're making loans. But access to capital, through a community bank like Merchants in the kind of communities that we serve, it brings businesses to life. It helps customers on the retail side, you know, finance their homes, finance their toys, build a comfortable lifestyle for themselves. And some of the greatest rewards of community banking are, being on the production floor of a family-owned, manufacturing company that, that our financing is helping grow, expand, add jobs, and drive the economic vitality of these communities. So, the myth of kind of stuffy, stodgy, boring work and doing nothing but making money at it is an absolute myth that needs to be bunked. And again, it's just awesome to see the success stories that we help bring to life.
Do you have a most joyful memory of giving back to your community off the top of your head, or one or two maybe?
Again, my parents, are two really special people in terms of selflessness and how much they care, and they inspired in my sister and myself the importance of giving back. And I've been a real active volunteer in this community with a number of different organizations. And when I joined Merchants in 1989, Eric, again, it was a newly created position. Bank leadership at the time really didn't know what they were going to be doing with this punk kid in this marketing role, and they didn't have a great strategic perspective of what my role was. One thing that they shared with me, about a month into the job, was that community service and community leadership was really fundamentally important to Merchants, giving back, donating, volunteering, and they were seeking an opportunity to kind of attach the Merchants brand with kind of a signature community service project that would kind of become, that community service, volunteering representation of the Merchants brand. And they had this notion for a community-wide food drive. And I didn't have anything to do. They didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. I said, you know what, I can take this on, and we can figure out a way to make this happen. So in 1989, we decided to start the first 10 days of giving food drive in our history. And today, 32 years later, we're still doing the 10 days of giving food drive in Winona. We're actually we've expanded it to a number of communities through our footprint. We partner with Winona Volunteer Services. We engage dozens of other businesses in the community. We engage all of the schools in the community. And again, just something that started very small, with Merchants looking for kind of a signature way to, represent how we give back, is something that now is kind of a annual staple in this community. We've established a wonderful partnership with the Winona Volunteer Services. That business and that nonprofit has grown and expanded a great deal, I think, as a result of the awareness that we help create, that not everybody in our county has enough food to eat all the time. And so that's been pretty rewarding, just to watch how that has grown and prospered. And again, I think, representative of the fact that, we care about everybody in this community, and we look for ways to go above and beyond to help people not quite as fortunate as some of the rest of us.
Yeah, and it's inspiring to hear you talk about that, the 10 days of giving and how it started small and how it built incrementally over time. I'm a big believer in that. Even a small little idea or just a little spark can ignite a big flame that goes forward. And that, I think, should be really inspired to the audience who is maybe dreaming big. Maybe some of the younger members are thinking that they do want to have an executive type leadership position later. And to just know that if you start small and just kind of at least progress in that right direction over time, with a little bit of hard work and luck, you might end up with an opportunity like you've had. Someone might approach you with an offer, and I'm curious as well. So when you are in that regional president role, and you get approached to then step up and take on even more responsibilities, is there an interview process that happens there? Or it's not, maybe as an internal hire, there's maybe not a formal application, or is there? I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So in our organization, our philosophy is that, pretty much every position is something that is posted and recruited for. Now, there's some variation to that, and we'll deviate from that formula occasionally. But I think one thing that first and foremost, Merchants has done a wonderful job of demonstrating consistently over the years that whenever possible, we promote from within. And we really try to give, our internal people plenty of opportunities to learn, grow, develop. We've got, career pathing opportunities. We've got customized kind of career pathing and training programs. And your mom helps facilitate some of that in her important role as part of our training department. So we're really good at, trying to find any and every opportunity for people inside the organization to try new roles, advance, earn promotions, earn additional responsibilities. And that will always be, a fundamental part of our culture. But we also recognize that we can't get better by only knowing what we know from within. So there is always a healthy energy that comes with bringing somebody from the outside into the organization, somebody that has had different experiences, maybe with other industries or maybe with other banking organizations. We need to learn from those things. And so our philosophy, Eric, is to always post and always go through a formal process, pretty much for every recruitment opportunity. So, when I was given the opportunity to transfer to Cannon Falls, I applied for the opportunity and I went through the process. And I know that, it was probably a pretty tough management decision, because I think, there were probably some very qualified candidates from outside the organization who probably had more market business leadership experience than I had at that point. But again, to the company's commitment, they gave me that opportunity for both the chief banking officer role and for the chief executive officer role when those positions opened up. That was a process. That was, those were both positions that I sought out and then was one of many candidates for, and went through the formal process of interviewing just like the other candidates. And that's generally how we approach recruitment for pretty much any role in the organization, and hoping that we've got qualified internal candidates all the time.
And just a message to the audience. So if you need to pause and rewind so you can play back and hear the important words Greg just said, paralleling what Bob Kierlin has said about Fastenal. So Merchants building from within and promoting from within. So there's some magic happening in Winona in terms of how leadership and how leaders of companies are developed. And I think it really speaks to the culture going forward, because if you can promote from within and you can get people to be passionate about why they're doing what they're doing, and they're not, necessarily even doing a job, they are part of a bigger mission. I think that's really inspiring, and I think that really shows that that company has a lot of promise in the future. So I appreciate you sharing those insights, Greg, and everybody listen up and rewind that if you need to. So,
Well, and I think, one thing I'd add, Eric, on that topic is that, again, our culture, our culture is not perfect. It is what it is. It's very strong, but it's not for everybody. Our culture requires that, people with, leadership roles embrace an intense level of responsibility. It comes with the territory. And it is about, kind of that servant leadership approach, living our values, working hard, leading by example. It's not about a title. It's not about command. It's not about authority. It's about, it's hard work. It requires tremendous presence and engagement. So the culture is not for everybody, but the culture is what it is. And I think what we've discovered, especially when we've acquired other banks or gone into new markets, is that we accelerate our success when we have somebody who's from within the culture, that is ready to be placed into those key leadership roles, because that culture transfer piece is really critically important, especially when it comes to acquisitions. So, where we've struggled with some acquisitions, it's because that culture clash, maybe between the old regime and the newly, the new acquiring entity, is prolonged. And we would prefer to accelerate that cultural integration. That just positions us for success in those new markets quicker.
I believe that. Yeah, and I can imagine that transition at times can be difficult. But you can see success going forward when you make a transition like that happen. And you can probably show that merchants grow stronger and develops and kind of molds over time, keeping people that have come from different backgrounds. So, Greg, I want to ask, how do you define success? We've talked a little bit about leadership and your views on that, but the true definition of success, what does that mean to you?
That's a great question. I don't know that I got a great answer for you. I mean, it's I think at the end of the day, happiness, and finding joy in all the good that comes with hard work, and all the good that comes with working with great people, and all the good that comes with helping people become successful. There's real joy in that, and that probably for me is dynamite, and just seeing somebody else prosper, seeing a customer rebound or get back on their feet, or realize hopes and dreams, and seeing coworkers happy and having fun at work. We work very hard. I'm a very driven person. I'm a very competitive person. I have a sense of urgency that's probably off the charts at times, but trying to have fun and having a sense of humor. And I think, people closest to me know that I've got a quick wit, and I expect and like having a quick wit shot back my way. And, just having fun, because we spend too much time at work not to enjoy it, and not to have fun with each other. And there are stressful days and there are bad days, and leadership requires hard decisions at times, but finding the fun in it, and finding joy in other successes, those are probably the things that motivate me and drive my, I guess, understanding of success.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying the difficulty of the question. I've often thought, I ask people this question, but I think internally of myself, I don't know if I necessarily know exactly what my answer to that question is either, how I define success. But you did speak on a piece that I really like there, and that is your internal drive and how you've, maintained motivation throughout your career and how you can keep that high work ethic. So one of those components of my show, the backbone of the Eric Mueller Show, is to really explore what makes any successful person's inner clock tick in that way. So I want to ask you, what is the one single driving force that keeps your inner clock ticking towards that success?
It's probably my competitor spirit. So I don't know if you're, familiar with uh, Clifton Strengths Finders program. So my five strengths are responsibility, developer, competitor, relief, and strategic. So I've talked a little bit about, my ability to, think critically and think strategically and connect the dots. Developer, I think that speaks to servant leadership and, truly wanting to demonstrate, a servant-like approach to helping people be successful. Responsibility, I've talked a lot about that. That's my number one strength, and just embracing, that the responsibility that comes with this territory. You don't get to coast when you enter that C-suite. At least not the way I look at leadership. And people are watching, and everybody's kind of looking to those of us at the executive leadership team level to set the tone for the culture, be transparent about expectations, be transparent about performance, and be transparent about the future direction of the company. But that competitor strength is probably the driver that makes me tick every day. And it probably, comes from, having a ball in my hand when I was 2 and keeping it there till I was 25 and loving to compete, and everything I learned about teamwork and, um, you know, roles and collaboration from football and basketball and baseball, and exposure to coaches of all different types, and the lessons I learned from so many people about the desire to win, but to do that the right way. And I think it's that competitor in me that motivates me to do the things I do. And it's the thing, it's not just about work, it's about what I like to do, for recreation, golf and sports and theater and music. And I've got lots of interests outside of the workplace as well, but always have to have something going on, Eric.
Yep, that I agree with that. And speaking of that competitive nature and that competitive piece of your life, my parents mentioned you're a massive sports fan, a big Minnesota Gopher fan, big Winona State Warrior fan. So I just wanted to ask you a little bit about that and talk about your passion there. Namely, what do you think about the new hire for the Golden Gophers, for Ben Johnson?
Amazing you asked me that, Eric, because right before I joined you, I was on a Zoom call with the new coach.
Wow.
I've had Gopher my wife Terry and I have had Gopher basketball season tickets for about 31 years, and because of my longstanding connection to the athletic program and the basketball program, I was extended an invitation to jump on a Zoom call with Coach Johnson, and there were probably maybe 40 people on the call right before I connected with you. I was impressed with him. I would tell you I was probably at first blush a little disappointed in the hire. Just because he hasn't had head coaching experience in the past. And, as one who really wants that program to be successful and really thinks that it can be, providing, the university demonstrates it wants to make the commitment to, to be at the championship level in that sport. But Coach Johnson really impressed me. He was kind of a straight shooter, to the point, doesn't shy away from the fact that he hasn't had that head coaching experience in the past, but he's been mentored by a lot of great coaches. He's had a lot of experience working as an assistant in a number of different programs. Obviously, first and foremost, he has an intense love for the state of Minnesota and the University of Minnesota and its basketball program because of having played there and served as an assistant coach. So I think he's highly motivated to be there. He wanted that job, and I think that hunger and that drive is certainly going to position him well, for the growth and development that he's going to have to accelerate for himself if he's going to be successful in the Big Ten. But I was impressed with how he commanded himself, and he's eager to get started.
I'm happy to hear that. I hope, as you, I'm a big Gophers fan too. I really hope we can do something here. I thought, Pitino had his chance. He had enough years to really turn it around, but seeing, a school like Illinois kind of turn around, become a 1 seed, and obviously their tourney run ended short and not the greatest way for them, but Minnesota's got the potential to do that. So maybe this new guy, first head coaching opportunity. He was pretty essential in some recruiting aspects of other programs, so he's at least got that, going for him. So, maybe the new guy just needs a shot. Maybe he'll surprise the heck out of us in his freshman or sophomore year of the coaching job.
Absolutely. He certainly articulated that, he feels he's up to that challenge and he's ready to take that step. And obviously he's got so many connections in Minnesota to the coaching community and the AAU community that, he can hit the ground running on that recruiting front. And I wish him, the very best. I think everybody in this state, wants to see that program do well. And how's your bracket doing, by the way?
Oh, it's busted beyond belief.
Yeah. Just like everybody's, right?
Oh my gosh. I think there was maybe after the first 16 games, there was like 108 left still standing.
Right.
And then after maybe another few games, I think when I can't remember which team it was that went down, but once one of those teams went down, maybe it was Purdue. Then the rest of them went to crap as well. But yeah, we're no stranger to success in the Winona area for basketball either. Having the Warriors, the 2006, 2008 wins, almost a win in 2007. I remember watching that game, the end of that, and just couldn't believe they lost that. But yeah, I'm glad that you're. I aspire to be a season ticket holder one day too. I'm a huge Minnesota Viking fan, so that's probably where I'd pick to do that first. But being in that fanship mindset, like you want to see your team succeed, and I hope you're right on Coach Johnson. Hopefully he can get us to that next level.
Absolutely. And interesting story too, Eric. Again, I didn't go to Winona State, but grew up here, and my dad did towards the end of his career spend several years in the administration over at the university. So got a love and a fondness for the university. I've actually been part of the I've run the game clock for Winona State basketball for about 25 years too. So those national championship years were really fun. And even those 7 years that I was living in Cannon Falls, I would come back on the weekends to run the clock for Winona State basketball. And some of your listeners might be interested in knowing that the gentleman who is currently the head men's basketball coach at Winona State is a guy by the name of Todd Eisner. Played collegiately at Creighton. He grew up in Wisconsin and played at Creighton. He and Porter Moser, the head coach of the Loyola basketball team, are best friends. They were best men in each other's weddings. So I get to kind of live vicariously through Coach Eisner on Porter's journey with Loyola and Sister Jean. And Todd was in Indianapolis last weekend with his friend Porter and watching the games. And I know he'll be heading back down there on Saturday for the Sweet 16 game. So I was kind of hoping that Porter would be on the University of Minnesota's list, but again, I think he's probably got an opportunity where he can command any job he wants. But he's got a pretty good gig at Loyola right now. So
yeah, they're having quite the run too. Do you have an inkling suspicion of who might win this tournament based on without even looking at the bracket? Is there one
Sure.
team?
I kind of thought all along that Gonzaga was, this was their year. I think they're really a talented group. I think they are the best team. And again, they've kind of, nipped into that championship circle in the past and haven't quite gotten that done. But I think this might be their year. I kind of hope it is.
I tend to agree with you. My Sooners fell short with them. Gonzaga looked really strong in round one, so I was nervous about that. But it's been a down year for the Blue Bloods too. Kansas getting blown out big. Duke and Kentucky not even in the tournament. So it's been a crazy year. I think it's more fun for the casual basketball fan to, your bracket is maybe if you pick that 14 seed or something, you're having a lot more fun. You have a chance to win your pool. But yeah, it's a good time, and we'll surely see.
It's awesome to have it back. It was so devastating last year not to have March Madness. So.
Oh, I know. And to move it to Friday, like the games didn't start till Friday, so I actually had a chance to watch most of them, which
Right.
typically Thursday, Friday it's a little tougher, but yeah. Well, Greg, yeah, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this. Getting up, 4:30 is going to come fast for you, so you better get to bed. But yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate the insight into leadership. Appreciate the insight into what success means to you. And we'll look forward to chatting with you soon and catching up with you after the tourney's over.
Thanks, Eric. Hey, congratulations to you on, getting your Doctor of Pharmacy degree, and kind of these ventures on the podcast, and kind of your entrepreneurial spirit. I wish you nothing but the best, and don't hesitate to reach out to me again. So it's been fun getting to know you. I love your mom and dad. Great folks.
Well, and I have to say, Greg, so my dad told me I had to ask you. He, in basketball in high school, he told me that he got a lot of rebounds off of some of your missed shots on the court. So I just
He's right. He's absolutely right. So I'm not going to deny that at all. So, your dad was a good player, and boy, that's a long time ago. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, time seems to be going fast for me as well. You kind of get caught up in the mindset of your day to day, and it can tick by. But stepping back and relaxing is important. But yeah, well, Greg, thank you so much. Really appreciate chatting with you. Thanks for your tips. Appreciate the the good wishes for my entrepreneurial journey. I really feel like I am destined to do something big. I don't know if it will be this podcast, but I've felt that within myself for quite some time.
Yeah.
So I hope that I can just continue down that path, and learning from people like yourself and Kierland, really helps me develop in the right way, I think, and
Sure.
just keep that humble mindset. Well, perfect. Well, Greg, I'll let you get back to your night. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Eric. Good luck.
Yep, you as well. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.